Hello, I'm FDX and welcome back to the video. So Jib was recently at the PC Gamer event in London and he did a huge 40-minute Q&A session where he answered a bunch of important questions about the updated Aquatic. He even spoke about other Minecraft stuff, about release dates, all that sort of stuff, but because of the fact that a lot of, Minecraft players weren't necessarily there, and because they haven't uploaded onto YouTube, the record has kind of been lost forever. You might have seen a very brief rundown in a Reddit thread, but I figured I'd go through and I'd cut it up because the person who recorded it, Myro, actually decided to send me the audio, and I'm going to show you the cut up version of all the most interesting things he said at that event in today's video. So here's a rundown of everything big that Jeb said about the Aquatic update, as well as something interesting about villagers that we've never heard confirmed before. Please do like this if you do like it, because it helps out the channel, and let's know you do like this sort of video. Again, it's really important news, and that's why I spent some time just going through, chopping up all these little bits, and I'm going to show them to you one by one, starting with when this update's coming out. So let's just quickly show you Jeb talking about when the update will release across all platforms.
So, update Aquatic is the first update that we're trying to get on all platforms at the same time. And yes, I already mentioned this. We're working on update Aquatic, and it's going to come out soon.
So there we go, directly confirmed. It's going to be coming out soon. Soon has like a lot of meanings, but he confirms it's going to be coming out for all platforms at the same time. Previously, he said it'll be coming out for all versions, but he was referring specifically to Bedrock and to the Java version. But in this particular case, it seems like he's just saying like all platforms at the same time. Obviously, it'd be weird to miss like 7 or 8 platforms in terms of the console edition. So no matter where you are on the console versions, you should be seeing this in the same week. It's basically confirmed. He said it twice now. There was an opportunity to correct himself, but clearly it's coming out for all platforms within the same week at the very least. And also we know that it's going to be coming fairly soon. Whatever you take soon to mean, I would take that to mean in the next couple of months. But again, you can I'll go for a whole video talking about the release date sometime, because that's a whole thing. So let's move on next to talking about some of the things he said about water physics, because you might have noticed in the current snapshots they haven't actually changed how water physics work. So here's Jeb talking about how water physics will work in this update in relation to stuff like stairs, ladders, etc.
Blocks will block flowing water, but you can combine a block and a water source block. So if you put a water bucket onto a block, like a stair, that will become a water source, and water will flow out of it, and the stair will be inside water. And likewise, if you put a stair on flowing water, the flow will be blocked, just like it is now in today's Minecraft. But if you put it on a source block, you will have both stair and the source block.
So the confirmation there is that the only blocks that will, properly work with water being in the same ones are source water blocks, which means you can obviously take a water block, you can throw something on there, or you can take a, like a block that's like partially something, and you can put water on there, and the water will fill up the rest of the block. So essentially, water source blocks can coexist with partial blocks, such as fences, etc., and they'll just exist as a second version of that block. And that's interesting enough. That's a really good balance, because a lot of people were upset that their existing stuff would break. No longer will that be the case, because it will just be like, oh yeah, only source blocks will cause issues, and right now you can't have source blocks touch other things. So it's a really good way to have the legacy thing work, while also having a new interesting way to have underwater stairs and slabs, etc., etc. So let's move on to the next little thing he says.
The coral block that was shown at Minecraft on Earth, they had half slabs, but we decided to only go with the full blocks. And the half slabs are now only for crafted stone materials.
So there's a direct confirmation that although there was coral half slabs at Minecon, and they did exist in the game for some time, they decided they need to have some consistent way to work out what should be a half slab, because otherwise you can argue anything in the game should be a half slab, like why not concrete, why not sand, why not gravel, of all things. Like, you can argue anything in the game can be a half slab, so they figured why not have a consistent way to do it. So now any crafted stone material will be a half slab, and indirectly by confirming that, he also basically confirms a few more blocks that will be coming as half slabs, such as polished andesite, because that's a crafted stone block, right? Such as polished granite, for instance, and maybe even the regular versions of those blocks. So yeah, expect to see a lot more, slabs coming in the full update, because they've already added the prismarine versions, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to imagine they'll also add, the other types of stone underground, which is pretty darn exciting if you ask me. Lots of more half slabs coming in this update, but the rule for half slabs now is if it has to be a crafted stone material, and I kind of get that. Like, it makes sense. It's the only way to make it so you don't have like 600 half slabs, because they want the game to be mostly about full blocks. That's what Minecraft is. Minecraft isn't a game about half slabs. Half slabs are just a cool thing you happen to be able to do. So let's move on to the next thing he says, which is actually about having fish and being able to collect them physically, because he says this.
You will also be able to use a bucket to catch the fish, to create your own, bring them back home and make aquariums.
So we basically confirmed that a little bit in Minecon, but here's just a little bit more of like direct him saying like, yep, that's something we still intend to do in the future. We're going to be having like a real physical fish that you can catch in a bucket. So yeah, there's going to be a brand new types of buckets, you know, bucket filled with fish. And I think that's at the very least a fun thing you'll be able to do in this update. So yeah, just a reminder of that feature in case you forgot, which I kind of did because we haven't seen it elsewhere. So here is another quote from Jeb.
Contain treasure. They're gonna be a new special treasure that I'm only gonna tease that it's gonna be there, but I'm not gonna tell you where it is.
So there's another, you know, kind of hint at the special treasure, like, I wonder what the special treasure will be. And it seems like, it seems like Jeb has a really good idea as to what it will be, but he doesn't want to spoil it. He wants to maybe put it in just the full game, maybe, like, not even have it snapshot. I'm not entirely certain what the plan is there, but it does seem like there is something huge coming in this update, but they doesn't want us to necessarily know quite yet, and I find that to be quite interesting. So, next up, Jeb actually spoke a lot about, dolphins, and then about the Phantom, because they're two mobs people have lots of questions about. So here are a couple of the answers, and they confirm really, really interesting things about their behavior, and here you go.
We've added the dolphin. It was not included in the snapshot, but it was announced at Minecon. The dolphin will follow you when you ride a boat. If you feed it fish, it will try to guide you to where you can find the treasure underwater. And they like to jump over things, and they will also items float now if you drop them in water, and the dolphins like to play with the items, so just like more of a cute behavior.
So I like the description a lot because he confirms that, like, oh yeah, so dolphins, they have some cute behaviors in there, but they're also super useful. Just give them some fish, they'll find some treasure. But this is the interesting part that we haven't heard anywhere else before, because it basically confirms not directly rideable dolphins, but something very close, because here is Jeb's second description of the dolphins and what they can do if you decide to have them lead you to treasure while you're not in a boat.
You can tag along, like you can grab a fin, and it will pull you along, so you can feed it, and then grab onto it, and it will try to find guide you towards treasure.
That's right, rideable dolphins, or at the very least, like, tag-alongable dolphins. You can't pick their direction, but you can ride on the back of the dolphin to the treasure, and to me, that sounds like just the coolest feature in this update, like, riding dolphins, it's a thing now. So, yeah, that is a direct confirmation of riding dolphins, something which we basically had, like, the opposite of confirmed before, but there is now going to be a way to at least tag along the dolphins, so you're not, turning it into your slave boat or whatever, but you are going to be able to use it to help you find treasure. So he also answers a question about whether the dolphins will ever be, aggressive towards you, whether they'll be non-peaceful, and the response I found to be quite funny, so again, let's share that.
They are always peaceful. Or wait. No, you're right. They act as wolves. So if you hit them, they will gang up on you.
So there you go, you have it confirmed. You can in fact fight dolphins in this update if you really want to, but they'll probably wreck you because a team of dolphins in the water, unless you have like a boat to just run away from them, you're probably going to get wrecked. So I know, I'm just saying, like, you can kill, if that's the thing you want a mob that fights back when you fight it, then I guess in this update, dolphins have got that going on, because they're smart and they realize that they can try and attack you as a group. So anyway, those are all the things that Jeb said about the dolphin. He confirmed they'll play with items in the water, which is cute. He confirmed they'll attack you if they get angry, and they confirmed that you can ride them. Three big things we didn't necessarily know before. And then there was obviously some questions about the, mob B, the Phantom 2, and although most of these will be obvious to you if you, like, again, assume it's an aggressive mob, they are interesting to hear Jeb directly confirm as well, because here is him talking about both the size thing and baby phantoms.
Baby phantoms. No. You can use commands to make them really, really big.
Yeah.
So there he confirms, like, obviously, like, no baby phantoms, because they're a hostile mob. Most hostile mobs don't have babies, and he also confirms that the command to make them much bigger is actually intentional, which I thought was just a nice little thing. So next up we have, this.
Will you be able to tame the phantoms?
No, you will not be able to tame the Phantom.
Because the Phantom is a hostile mob, therefore you can't tame him. But this last thing is something that is crazy interesting, because although we knew that they intended to put Phantoms in the end, here is what Jeb discussed when he's, like, talking about the challenge of putting the Phantoms in the end, and he basically confirms they're going to have a different drop there, or at least a very interesting drop.
The problem is, of course, that if you're in the end, you essentially just get 1 hour of game time before they stop spawning, and then you can't really prevent them to continue spawning. So we are brainstorming either things that they will drop that you can use to like reset the insomnia timer, if you would call that, or add other measurements that you can use to kind of escape them.
There he confirms that he's working on a brand new drop that will help you with the insomnia effect, or at least help you get away from these guys, because bear in mind, in the end, once they start spawning, they won't stop spawning, because again, you can't actually, you can't sleep in the end without causing just huge explosions, as people who try to speedrun the dragon using bed spawn know. So finally, while we're talking about mobs, we have one more thing confirmed, which is the new hostile mob. He hints at a little bit in this very short clip here, so let me just share that with you.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we're going to add another hostile mob to the water. Yes.
So there is just another direct confirmation on the new hostile mob, as well as the new, underwater treasure. There's going to be a new treasure, there's going to be a new hostile mob. Both those things directly confirmed in person, just in case you're like, oh, I'm not too certain about this one. Now you can be entirely certain. So there's two more things that he goes through here. First of all, it's talking about future updates and the theme behind all of them. I found that to be massively interesting. And then also he got a little bit of thing about villages at the end here. So let's just go through how future updates are going to be themed, because he's, worked out there's going to be 2 a year, and the way they're going to be themed is based on this.
In the same way that you've done it with the aquatic, are there any plans to develop more specific animals for different biomes? So sort of things that are helpful, like camels in the desert, or more things in the Arctic, more helpful mobs than just things to do?
Yeah, every major update we try to include at least one new animal kind of mob. And what we said is that it's maybe too much to make like a desert update like we did with Update Aquatic. So what we said that for each update we're going to focus on one theme and then one biome, essentially.
Okay.
But we haven't exactly, like we haven't really nailed which biome to do next. But yes, that's the intention.
Deserts and camels.
Okay.
So besides the little joke at the end there, like, oh, you should totally do camels and stuff, what he basically confirms with that one is that every future update, one, it's going to have at least a mob or two in there, because people seem to like those. As two, he's going to, again, these are twice a year updates, by the way. And the second thing he confirms is that he's going to be making them based on a different biome every single time. So the update aquatic, obviously based on oceans. There could be, in future, a desert, like dusty desert update or something like that, based on the desert. But he seems to imply there that, like doing it for the desert would be too much, and therefore he's doing it on another biome, so we could see like a frozen biome update next, or what it could also mean, because again it sounds a little bit like maybe every new update will bring a new biome, or at least some of these updates, well, instead of just focusing on an existing biome, they could add a brand new one entirely, because bear in mind that after Minecraft 1.0 release, some of the most exciting updates were the one of the jungle coming in and of the mushroom biome coming in, so it's possible we'll see like a new biome be added, and then instead of just bringing a bunch of new biomes at once, where like they all feel a bit samey in some ways, they'll add a new biome and they'll make it full of content so that there's a reason to go find that particular thing. Again, that's one of the things it sounds like he's doing. He's either going to work on he's going to pick a biome, whether it's new or whether it's an existing one, and he's going to work on that entirely. So that's how future updates will go. We don't know what 1.14 will be yet, but we now know it's going to include at least one mob, and it's going to be focused on a obviously it's going to be focused on a brand new or on some type of biome, and we also know it's coming out later this year because of, again, the two-year update thing. So let's move on finally to the clip here, because I just found this interesting. As someone who like does a lot of village farming, you might have questioned, why do village houses just count as like a door with a block above it? So here is Jeb's explanation on why they decided to code it that way.
We figured that regardless of what rules we put to a house, players would find the shortest path to the goal. So we just decided to make it as simple as possible to save on performance, to calculate what a house is, and then hopefully players would kind of design a house anyway. But that's not really what happened. We just got rows and rows and rows of doors, but that's fine. We are always looking to improve the village behavior in the future.
So he confirms that, like, oh yeah, well, we just figured, like, if we made the mechanics vague, then maybe people would just make houses, and that's what I did at the very start, I'll be honest, but obviously people worked it out very quickly, and that's why village houses work the way they do, but it is something they intend to improve on in the future, but obviously not this update, just like, oh yeah, that'd be a nice idea. So yeah, we learned about dolphins, we learned about the secret treasure, we learned about a new hostile mob, we learned that phantoms are going to drop something to do with, like the insomnia effect, or at least making them go away, and we also learned that the next update's going to focus on a biome 2. Their future updates going to be focused on biomes, and really, we just learned a lot of stuff in this big talk, and I wanted to thank one more time Myro for sharing the audio with me. Again, this was like hand-recorded audio. There is no other record of this event out there, so I figured it'd be kind of cool to get out there in a video. So I hope you all enjoyed this very exclusive look at, you know, Minecraft and Jeb's opinion on the updated Quadsic. Like it if you did like it, because it helps out the channel and lets me know you do like the news videos. Share if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel, and if you subscribe, you'll see them daily on your homepage. As soon as the full talk comes out, I will upload that somewhere, maybe as unlisted, maybe just upload the whole thing, because I do think it's interesting enough to listen to and to, you know, hear and see Jeb talking about these things. But for now, I hope you all enjoyed this one, because I'll see you all next time. Have a nice day. Goodbye.